you don't understand the delusions that go on through many women's heads when it comes to polygyny, then you might get caught up in a little silly argument about lust and when you thinking, oh no, it has to be about altruistic reasons. Listen, you can help women, you can help men, you can do it through sadaqah or charity, you can do it many different ways. You do not have to marry them. You don't. Warning, viewer discretion is advised. The content, views, and educational material you are about to experience could challenge your belief, trigger strong emotions, and frankly, piss you off. This isn't for everyone. If you're not ready to confront new ideas, or if your feelings bruise easily, this might be the time to click away. Expect to be challenged, to think, and you might even want to scream at the screen. Proceed with caution, and remember, you chose to be here. Let's get it. Assalamu alaikum, peace. I'm Coach Nazir, one of the founders of Outstanding Personal Relationships and one of the authors of the book, Let's Talk Polygamy Uncensored. If you don't have your copy, I suggest you get it. Today, I want to talk to the men. All right, and I just want to share some common delusions that women have when it comes to polygyny so that you can understand it, possibly articulate it, but the most important part is that you get the proper perspective. Because you get things like, if you are having a conversation, like I suggest all men, married or not, have this conversation first with themselves, really see where they're at, measure, gauge yourself, have your report card or do the self-assessment, polygyny readiness self-assessment on our website. But after you had a conversation with yourself, of course, you have to speak with your significant other or others regarding how you feel regarding polygyny. Now, just for the record, polygyny means a husband who is married to multiple wives. We have a lot of people who only know the term polygamy. I was like that at one time as well. But then you have the arrogant who are like, why the word is polygamy? You're pronouncing it wrong. Hilarious, because it just means you haven't expanded your vocabulary. But it's okay to do so. Polygamy just means a spouse who is married to multiple spouses. You see how it's not gender specific? So under that umbrella follows two things. One is polygyny, husband married to multiple wives. Or polyandry, wife married to multiple husbands. We ain't on that, so we're talking about polygyny because specificity matters. So if you've increased your vocabulary, post that down below. Say, I've increased my vocabulary. All right, I know the difference now between polygamy and polygyny. But with that being said, let's talk about some common delusions that women have when it comes to polygyny. One, you always hear this thing, or I've heard it, and many men hear it, especially if you are a gentleman watching this video. You probably heard, oh, this is only for your own desires or your own lusts and only for sexual reasons and purposes. Yeah, I get that. I hear that. All right, and it's common. Now, one thing that you hardly ever hear when somebody proposes to a woman or they're just getting engaged and they're excited about this engagement, you rarely have somebody coming up, girl, you know he's just trying to get with you for his own selfish physical desires and his lust and just fill them with you. You know why? Because even if that's the case, it doesn't matter because he's only with one woman. Because basically, once you get married, you're pretty much saying, listen, my private parts are going to be fulfilled by this other person. Period. That's what it is. Marriage is really this contract between your private parts, and then a societal contract and construct that goes from beyond that position. Polygyny is simply a form where a husband is married to multiple wives. They're not girlfriends, jump downs, mistresses, none of that stuff. Wives, which is honor. Now the question comes in, if you're simply just walking around knuckle dragging like an ogre, like Shrek or something, is that really it? Is that why you want to marry an additional wife? All the extra stuff that comes with marriage? Now, I'm pretty sure the reason that you married, whoever you married, if you practice monogamy, is not just simply to fulfill your lustful desires, though that's important. All right, that's important. You should lust after your wife. Lust simply means a strong desire. That's there. That's in part of what we do. The challenge is women don't understand men from that perspective. And a lot of us don't understand ourselves. Let me give you an example. A healthy man has 10 times the testosterone of a healthy woman. We both possess these different hormones. Now, here's the thing though. Many women have no idea, many men either, probably said you're ready to say this statement, and I didn't know it for quite some time myself, is that women have more testosterone than they have estrogen. All right. But that still doesn't mean they're going to understand what it means to have this testosterone. So for example, if you've ever seen an animal that has been snipped, a male animal that has been snipped, then you will recognize that many of them are lethargic, they're lazy, they don't have that ambition, that aggression, that attentiveness that one with more levels of testosterone tends to have. So yes, sexual desire should absolutely be part of the equation. Duh, it makes sense. That's part of chemistry to begin with. But just to simply think, in order to have sex and fulfill your sexual desires, you have to get married. Well, I'm from the West. All right. And in the West, when someone says they're a virgin or exposed they're a virgin, that's looked at as something shameful in their teens. And many even lie about it. But many surveys have been coming out that talk about between the ages of 14 and a half, 16 and a half, many people, most in the West, lose their virginity. Think about that. And they're not married. Really? Even though they might wear white dresses as part of custom, white dress is supposed to mean that they're pure. They're virgins when they get married. But we know, and I'm sure you know, especially living in the West, these white dresses are just fashion. They're custom. Because many of them will be black if it's regarding the body count that they have experienced, I should say. So one of the main delusions is that, polygyny is simply for lust. Well, if we establish that sex can actually be had outside of marriage, and it's commonly had outside of marriage, especially in the West, then that's probably not it. Because there are such things as brothels, escorts, jump down mistresses, prostitutes, sugar babies, all that type of stuff that happens in order to simply transact with sex. See, it's actually a lot cheaper with sex than it is necessarily to marry simply to have sex with somebody. I mean, come on, just be real. All right. So that's one of the delusions that many women face, just because there is something in you that should be attracted to your wives, period. I mean, that just not only makes common sense, but it's almost too common for many people to really grasp. That's one of the delusions. The other part is you get this thing where, there should be a benefit both ways. Meaning that, okay, well, if a man can marry multiple women, for example, then it should be the same for women. Well, newsflash, men are not simply women with penises. And women are not men with vaginas. We're different, we complement each other, and yes, we absolutely do need each other. But we are not the same. We are very different. Let me give you an example, just go back to some biological stats, all right? A man, healthy man, anytime he ejaculates, releases that life fluid, releases millions, if not billions of sperm cells, which can impregnate women. He has an engine that grows and makes more pretty much every day. So one man, let's just say one time a day, can have or impregnate, let's say one different person a day over the year. Over 360 babies can be born next year. How many babies can a woman have? So let's talk about the difference really quickly between polygyny and why we talk about the family structure, because many of us have heard of it takes a village to raise a child. But when it comes time to talk about the village and polygyny, there's all kind of backlash. Let's be real about this here. In polygyny, you can build a family exponentially versus linearly, and everyone will know who the father is. Polyandry, on the other hand, is a little more problematic. Not only because I'm talking about the West and the US, for example, if every single adult male married an adult female, you'd be dealing with over 6 million unmarried women. Polygyny is the solution to that problem, unless you just don't really care about women, as women talk about women's rights and this and that and girl code. But until you had a conversation about polygyny, you're really not going to know where a woman really stands, especially if you're already married. All right, think about that. But 6 million women that they don't care for. When it comes to polygyny or getting married, if you're saying, no, monogamy is just the only way, which again doesn't make sense. However, with polyandry, say you have multiple men and multiple husbands with one wife. All right, cool. How many babies you gonna have in a year? Secondly, how you gonna know who the father is? Now you say, we can have DNA testing. Yeah, after the fact, you actually can have DNA testing. However, what is it gonna do with men's jealousy? What's it gonna do with who's gonna be protecting and taking care of you while being uncertain of who is in that womb? Secondly, what kind of man is going to be sitting there and saying, okay, yeah, I'll release my fluids in this woman who within the last 5 days had sex with someone else and his fluids are still swimming around in her, which means now they'll be swimming around in me. Yeah, you're not talking about a masculine man, a man that's there to protect and provide and actually preside over a kingdom, which means his dominion. Kingdom and dominion or domain, that's kingdom. All right, so you don't have two kings in the kingdom, just like you don't have two kings on the same side on the chessboard. But you can absolutely have two queens that dominate the game and it'll be over quickly. Now, going back to the whole polyandry thing, men have what's known as a monopoly on violence. So our jealousy is not the same as a woman's jealousy. Yeah, we have jealousy and should actually have protective jealousy over protecting and preserving and making sure we are handling our business and expanding our families. But women aren't the same as men. Again, we're different. And with that difference comes basic realizations. Men, we tend to understand that. So a common delusion is, if a man can have more than one, then a woman should have more than one. Try it. Why don't you go talk to your husband about that and see how he feels? And see how your relationship will be after. Whereas I'll tell the man, you need to speak with your wife about these proclivities or how you feel and whatnot. See, the other part, well, if I have multiple men, they can do these different things for me. See, when we look at polygyny, we don't look at it that way. We look at it as actually providing for more. Meaning that, okay, can I provide financially? All right. Can I provide educationally? Can I provide spiritually? Can I actually provide? Whereas a woman tends to think about polyandry or multiple husbands as them doing things for me. We're not looking at women doing things for us. We're talking about building a family and everything else. And sex, of course, is a part of that because that's actually how you build a family. I don't care how old you are, but if you add like 9 to 10 months onto your age, you are simply a nut. Yeah, you simply, two people got excited, they got together, boom, naturally, some things happened, some fluids were released, and you came about, just like I came about. Add 9 to 10 months to your age, all right? Unless you're more premature, and I was actually premature. I think I was born around 8.5 months or something like that. Nevertheless, we are the result of an orgasm between a man biologically and a woman biologically. Two people got together, got excited, got heated, there was some friction, and then several months later, we were born. All right, just to be clear, that's where we are. So with that being said, those are a couple of delusions when it comes to polygyny. Understand these delusions. Now, is it okay to understand that someone may feel insecure about some things or they are a product of conditioning so much so that they can't fathom how this can actually be true? Meanwhile, we're absolutely sitting in the West where more than half of all marriages end in divorce, where infidelity is something that's common and even accepted. And I mean accepted by, for example, in the U.S., you had President Bill Clinton. He had plenty of women, all right? He had them all over the place. And these Monica Lewinsky stories are legendary to this day. And you may have a local politician that has his own scandals or whatnot, right? So with Clinton, people were like, okay, as long as it doesn't affect his job performance, as long as he's a good president, and that's just his personal life, we don't have any issues with it. As though not having high values and lying and being deceitful and all that kind of stuff doesn't impact what you do in other areas of your life. It absolutely does. However, polygyny, on the other hand, allows you to marry and be responsible for your pleasure. Yeah, you have the pleasure of sex like you would have in a normal marriage anyway. However, a traditional normal, as in meaning monogamy, is that placed out there. But you're responsible. You have to protect, you have to provide, you have to also be an exceptional man if you're going to be doing it right. I'm not talking about pickup artists and people that just running game. Obviously, that's not what we're talking about here on Outstanding Personal Relationships channel and the work that we do. It's educational. But if you don't understand the delusions that go on through many women's heads when it comes to polygyny, then you might get caught up in a little silly argument about lust and when you think oh no, it has to be about altruistic reasons. Listen, you can help women, you can help men, you can do it through sadaqah or charity, you can do it many different ways. You do not have to marry them. You don't. But fortunately, one sex has this thing where they want to protect and provide and establish a family with whom they're looking at providing and allowing to take part of their inheritance, which again is one of the reasons you don't see some successful polyandrous societies where you have multiple men and one woman. One is extremely slow. Two, what type of men are with that? Not the type of men that you want to look to lead you to grow and to protect and provide your family. They're likely highly effeminate individuals, and they may have things going on with each other. Again, don't believe me? Go talk to your husband, talk to your significant other about what you want them to do for you. Similarly, biologically speaking, when we're talking about polyandry, the reality is women just after one long session can have a problem with soreness on the inside, internally, and even externally with friction. For a man, you may have soreness if it comes with different positions or different angles. However, a little lubrication can handle that. Where even with one person, women have a problem. So even satisfying multiple men, one, you have to think about that. Two, as a man, having multiple responsibilities so far as providing is absolutely different than what a woman's role is. I don't know about you, but I believe in more traditional gender roles where a woman is taking care of the home, raising children. So, for example, if she's not going out to work and doing all that kind of stuff, which is not necessary, but with an exceptional man's wives shouldn't have to be able to do that, up to their choice if they want to, but that's a different discussion. However, if I say, all right, cool. My wife is more they're nurturing. So they want to feed their families, be home and deal with the children and make things beautiful and all that kind of stuff. How you going to do that with multiple men? You talking about hopping to other houses and now you're dealing with the clothes or the laundry or fixing stuff or getting things together and having this quality time and all that kind of stuff with multiple men somehow, right? And of course, a man's life fluid can live inside of a woman up to like 5 days. See that? And then a week out of the month, pretty much about 5 to 7 days on average, you're not even able to do it because you had that cycle thing that's going on. You see how silly that sounds? Oh, well, women should be able to do it. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm talking about building family and building structure, knowing who the father is, being able to provide and being excellent. Because if a man's going to practice polygyny, they want to do it right, then they should be able to be more than twice the man. That doesn't mean you don't struggle, you don't have challenges. That means you actually approach these struggles with a solution-oriented mindset to learn what you need to learn to do what you need to do in order to have what you want to have. And that is something commendable, respectable, and every man should strive for. Because being average is nothing but the bottom of the top, or the top of the bottom. In order to practice polygyny, we suggest men become outstanding. And there's a way to do that, a whole method to do that, and we educate and stuff on that. But the first thing, or one of the first things men should recognize, is many women are delusional when it comes to these things, only because of conditioning. And many men are as well, because the fact is, not many men want to be exceptional. They'll rather just go ahead, pick up women, have what they have. They say things like, hey, why buy the cow when you can have the milk for free? This dude is talking about polygyny. That means you're responsible in providing for it. Nah, there's more on the Kevin Samuels philosophy. Look, you can be married, you can go out there and deal with all these other women. That should be expected according to his philosophy, as long as you don't bring home any diseases and extra children. That's what he was on. And many men are on that, like, no, man, I'm monogamous, but I got girlfriends. It might be a zaddy or whatever. Again, these are different things that are more normalized and accepted. How about normalizing and accepting something that's honorable, raising women in a position of wives, taking care of the families, and building strong families with a strong foundation, and making sure you're leveling up to be outstanding versus being part of the mediocre masses. With that being said, I'm Coach Nazir. I help entrepreneurs and high performers who want to practice polygyny, deepen connections, develop confidence, and design a cash flow without feeling disrespected or dismissed by using my shift method, where I help people get their shift together. With that being said, I want you to put down in the comments, if you watch this entire video, that means you support what we're doing, you're hearing what we're saying, whether you agree or disagree. All right, we like to hear your comments. All right, we're up for open, honest dialogue and debate as long as it's respectable. You come disrespected, you may get blocked, or we might have time for some smoke and get back at you. Hey, we're all adults here, so if we keep it respectable, that's even better. So what I want you to do is put in the comment section below to let me know that you watched the entire video, and seeing what we're doing is average is not acceptable. Put the phrase average is not acceptable. Let us know that you rock with us. We appreciate you. Make sure you recognize that if it says subscribe up there on the YouTube, just take a half a second. Doesn't waste much time. Click it, subscribe, share this information with others if it is beneficial to you. And we look forward to working with you and seeing you over top. All right, y'all. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.